Our mission, and we choose to accept it, is zero injuries and zero environmental impact. A healthy workforce and environment is key to our nation's continued success. The Mission Zero podcast is a deep dive with the industry's top experts into the health, safety, and environmental aspects of today's workplace. Our mission is to be a platform for new ideas and strategies that, when implemented, will improve our safety, our environment, and how we govern out business. We are making the world safer, and we're going to have fun doing it.
Okay, welcome everybody back to the Mission Zero podcast. It's been quite a while since we've had an episode. We took quite a bit of time off. I had a few health issues that I dealt with and feeling a lot better, and no better guest for my first guest back, Keith Stelter. What's up, man?
Man, I'm glad to hear you're feeling better, and thanks for having me on the show. It's nice to be asked to be on a show instead of actually having to do the asking.
You were too interesting to never, ever talk to, and that's why I wanted to talk to you. And, you know, for our audience, I had been trying to do this with you for quite a while. I've had to cancel a few meetings with you, so I appreciate you not holding that against me or getting upset with me. I was really, dealing with some terrible things, but treatment has come along that has been much better for me. Life is much better for me now, and the Mission Zero is about to get rolling again in a big way. So I appreciate you coming on. You're head of marketing. Is that what you said?
I'm in charge of marketing now at Arc Energy.
Mm-hmm.
They've kind of messing with my title. I kind of went from business development. Now I'm corporate marketing and strategic development, but recently I took over the marketing department. I'm also doing a few things with the used equipment department as well. So I'm wearing a few different hats here. So sales is good. I'm in my first full year of sales with Arc with process equipment. This is my, I was a wireline guy for a long time. And so this is my first venture, and I don't know, doing pretty good, I think.
Before you talk too much about what you're currently doing, you're Canadian, you're a transplant here, and we love you here.
I'm also a citizen now, too.
Are you really?
Yes, sir.
When did that happen?
November 9th will be officially 2 years.
Okay. I thought I remember was talking about it. I couldn't remember if it actually happened or if it was about to happen, but that's certainly an exciting thing. Glad to have you here, man. It was
quite the process, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, tell us a little bit about your childhood and all, not detailed, but just kind of where you came from, how you got into just cliff notes about your life, key points, how you went from a boy growing up in Canada to being a big deal in the oil field in Texas now.
Deal, but my father was a farmer, and he also in Canada you got pretty big winters. So in the wintertime he hauled rigs, winch tractor, that kind of stuff. So I've been around the oil field growing up. Grew up on a farm in northeast Alberta, just outside of Edmonton, Alberta. And so it always made sense. Eventually, I would kind of find my way into the oil field, even though I went to school for civil engineering. I had one job there and kind of was working around the clock, but the money wasn't all that great. So Schlumberger came a-calling one day, and they were international. So that was a way of, I always wanted to play football versus hockey. That kind of thing was where my interests were. So I always kind of liked the idea of Texas. So I was like, man, my goal is to get with a company and get transferred down to Texas and marry a blonde-haired Texas woman and go from there. And after 3 years with Schlumberger, I did get transferred down to actually Graham, Texas, and found that blonde-haired girl outside of Cleburne, Texas in the Barnett Shale days. Back then, I was about 2006, and we got married, and a couple hop, skip, and a jumps back and forth from Canada back in here, and I find myself now in the Permian today.
You are the Canadian Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, I don't know.
You manifested what you wanted to do.
Well, there is a couple things I haven't, I made myself a couple lists of things I wanted, places I wanted to be, and I've achieved most of those. There's, still a couple things outstanding, but yeah, I think I did not too bad for, what I set out to do, for sure. I've had a great, if I was to die tomorrow, I got great family and kids, and I've done a lot of things. No regrets. I tried to get what I wanted done.
Did you before? What did you do in oil and gas before you got into the marketing business development side? Is that what you always been in, or
no? So for the most part, nearly 20 years. I was operations guy. Started with Schlumberger and Wireline. Worked the field for 5 or 6 years with them and a couple other little companies, and eventually found my way into management with Weatherford. Worked a little bit overseas with a company called Oil Serve, and in Iraq, for the most part, Basra or Iraq. That was a great experience. The Middle East is a place I think is very misunderstood, and a lot of people, don't give it, they get nervous or whatever. But I had a great experience over there. And then,
so you were in the Army?
No. Worked for Oil Serve doing wireline over there
in Iraq.
Yeah.
What year was this?
2013.
Oh, so after,
yeah. So that was and after the war, and then before all the ISIS stuff too. So it was a good time. Basically, we all got cleared out. I think at the end of 2013, 2014, some ISIS was kind of coming into power there, and that cleared out a lot of expats. And, but the Basra field, was pretty cool, older style field that at Oil Serve, there were a lot of projects cleaning that up, but and then came back, ended up back with Weatherford. Me and my wife were in Canada for about 5 years, and then once we started having kids, got an opportunity to come back, went back with Weatherford. Old boss Bill 80, who I worked for in Canada, hired me back on in the U.S. and started out as a subject matter expert in, pump downs, that kind of horizontal kind of wireline delivery, and then found myself as operations manager in Oklahoma, and then the area manager for the Permian was the last thing before they shut down all the wireline for Weatherford. Just 2019, the end of 2019, they did that. And so that kind of led me to the marketing thing. I had a chance, briefly to go back to Schlumberger, which I originally started. Once again, it was wireline, but it was sales, and I'd never done sales before. And, I ran into an amazing individual over there, Maciel Diaz, flipping the barrel. Mm-hmm. She works over there, and I got the chance to see what she does. And with COVID coming on, I saw all the online stuff she was doing, and I'm like, she's got it figured out. Like, I might be old, and I might have a little bit more wireline experience, but she's got the sales and what, how do you get attention and move ahead here. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Yeah. And so that's where I originally kind of started tinkering more with LinkedIn, posting and trying to network on there. And COVID hit, they kind of shut down all the sales out here for the Permian. So now instead of marketing wireline products, I became the product.
Yeah.
And that, I couldn't just wait for the phone to ring, sending out resumes like thousands of other people have been laid off, hoping that there was a spot somewhere. I wanted to create my own opportunity, and I figured, posted. I wasn't doing anything else at home. Why not try and, set myself apart somehow? So I figured, your resume says one thing about you, but if you actually, what I started doing was just telling stories of real life examples of, times in the wireline that I solved a problem, right? It's people want, you talk, you want to be a problem solver. Okay, that's great to say, but give me an example of you solving a problem. And I went and told stories about how I found drill collars on our P&L statement in wireline division one time. And I'm like, well, there's no drill collars in the wireline division. That goes to the drilling department. So the depreciation was getting hit wrong and calculated wrong in one of my P&Ls. There was I just went on stories like that, and it started catching fire. And then a big shout out to one guy who saw what I was doing, David Gibson, the Vidor locksmith. He's got one of the biggest LinkedIn shows, and he was like, hey man, I like what you're doing and stuff. I want to help you out. I'm going to give you like a little segment on my show called A Minute with Keith. And I did that for probably 2 or 3 months. Hopefully it wasn't longer than that. Looking back, hopefully I did that justice. He was great to me. And then Arc Energy came and was like, hey, we like what you're doing, and you're trying to set yourself apart, and you got all these people, because lots of people reached out during that time.
Yeah.
But it was like I didn't check a box. Like, they were like, man, we love all this marketing you're doing and advertising and you're networking, and people are really, responding to you. But then they go, wait, you don't have a marketing degree and you haven't been doing this for 5 years? And they just kind of move on, right? It was like I didn't check the box. And, Jason Arsenault, to his credit, the president of Arc Energy, kind of had to sell me to some of his other people as well. He's like, here's this guy. And, for example, there's one guy on the board who was like, why the hell do we want to hire this wireline guy who has no process equipment experience? And now he's one of my biggest, supporters. That's the same guy, taking him over.
So you mentioned process. So tell us a little bit about, for the audience who may not know a lot about ARC, can you give a scope of what the work is with ARC and everything they do?
Yeah. So, I was upstream wireline, that's downhole tools for the most part. And then Arc Energy builds process equipment. And what that is, you have your separators on location. So basically everything after the wellhead, your flare stacks, your heater treaters, and Arc definitely deals more on the gas processing side. So capturing flare gas, VRUs, that's vapor recovery units, any kind of big vessels, slug catchers, they dry gas with dehighs and stuff. So, from the production department to the facilities department at an oil company to midstream. Midstream, I would say, is probably 60% of our business, building compressor stations. Now, we don't actually do the actual compressor, but we do the vessels and the separators and all that sort of stuff. We also deal in generators, and it's actually a pretty global company. So even though we might not deal with something, because Jason has been networking, the owner of the company, for so long and dealing, because we buy a lot of equipment and we recondition it, that people will come to us. And even though we might not deal in it, we know where it is. So it's, hopefully that kind of covered it. But process equipment, we buy it, we recondition it. So if you have an old vessel on location, that's part of when I got there and I learned that they were doing this, buying old vessels. They sandblast it, clean it up, they hydrotest it. They have an R-stamp ASME code. I'm like, man, that's not just reconditioning. You're recycling. Like, that's a great ESG message. And they were like, holy crap, you're right. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're saving, if that vessel's 40,000 pounds of steel, that's 40,000 pounds of brand new steel that didn't have to be made, which saves about 80,000 pounds of carbon dioxide from, being produced, right? So it's a nice little... And why not take advantage of something, why waste, right?
Yeah.
Why let some of this big equipment out there go to rusting? And so that's kind of what we do in a little bit of a nutshell.
So appreciate that, telling what they
Going
do.
off, yeah.
Well, because,
Tangent.
I myself, as much as I am out here talking to oil field people, I've never worked in the oil field. So when people tell me about companies, and that company could be a very popular company, could be a company everyone knows and is aware of, but I may not know half of what they do and exactly what that is. So no, I like to hear exactly what a company does, and I believe what we talked about earlier, the things that ARC does, you're going to see a big year next year, right? Growth in that particular spot in the oil field, because I mentioned this on my podcast before. I think people completely removed from the oil field and see it from a 10,000 foot look don't realize how complicated it is and how intricate it is and how
many moving parts there really is. Just it's divided up into three groups: upstream, midstream, and downstream. And everybody knows about drilling and getting that stuff, but okay, that's just one part of getting it to the surface. Now it's got to get somewhere, and just getting it to the refinery to be processed, to be sent to your home to burn is a massive undertaking in itself. And the capacities to do that and make sure that gas doesn't come out or oil doesn't come out perfect. There's lots of impurities that can
lots of work to do there.
Corrosion just to deteriorate it. So you got to make sure it's all gone.
Excuse me.
So it's, I like the fact you never get to learn everything. Every time I spent years in wireline, I still didn't know, all of it that had to be done on the wireline side. And that's just one part of upstream. And now coming over to midstream and seeing how much there is here as well, it's remarkable.
It is a miracle what people do out here. It is unbelievable what they do, but
safely and environmentally responsibly. I know it gets a lot of heat when there's spills or something, but if you knew the amount of material that was really being moved and the percentage of what's actually leaked or spilled and stuff, it's It truly
how
is
far in the
remarkable.
earth it is.
Oh,
That's what's insane to me. Like they're going incredibly far into the
under
earth.
the temperature and the pressure is it's so intense, and like measured while drilling, like they're vibrating, breaking through stone, and they're taking measurements 13,000 feet away underground under immense pressure and temperature, and sending information to surface, and it works.
That was the craziest thing I'd ever seen in my life. When I was in Schlumberger, I was at their drilling and measurement facility in Houston, and I work with Schlumberger a lot with my new company. And I was working with them recently there, where they're putting it into the downhole tools. But I'm actually working where they're actually building the electronic boards. There are electronic boards that go on this drill, and I'm speaking mostly to the audience that may not have know about the oil field, not to you, of course, but. These electronic boards are basically computers that are going on these things, going way into the earth to work. And it's incredibly intricate, like what these people are doing there. They're building these things because, they have to have heat and stuff. So I was looking at different types of gloves and working on a coat that will not, textile that will static electricity, textile, for them as well. So it's you could go on and on about the marvels it is, but I want to talk to you today. What I want to, I guess, more discuss. You and I met about a year and a half ago.
Yes,
about a year and a half ago for a good friend, J.P. Warren. It was another like myself that really has got it figured out. He's a hell of a human being and also really good at what he does. But we met, and what I instantly and I think you heard it in some of the things you've said already. What I liked about you instantly was your spirit, your positivity, zest for life, and most of all, you're one of the most mindful people I've ever met. You realize how blessed you are, and you're thankful for it. And so that's a part of the reasons I want to get on there. But I want to go now to about 2020, right? That's when you said, okay.
I'm the product now,
Yeah.
and I gotta market myself. And
so, what was the first thing you did? Like, give us a little bit about the first year of that and how you developed that, because you didn't know a lot of people like you do now.
it was building a network, and so the main thing was I knew you had to stay positive, right? I see the biggest advice I could give anybody out there who's looking for a job or posting now, what do I do is don't say don't say, I'm desperate. Don't, nobody wants, it's unfortunate it happens. And I felt a lot of times the same way, but nobody wants to go and hire someone who's broken. Like basically, maybe that's a horrible way of putting it, but they want to know you still have the fight in you to, when they hire you, you're going to hit the ground running and you're going to, bring positivity and a new part to the company, right? So that's what I focused on, was one, kind of expanding on my resume, examples of problems I solved, but then positive spin. And it always was thinking of questions I've been asked in interviews, was how I've tried to frame most of the posts to try and once again market myself. One post that really caught a lot of people's attention was, do you learn things quickly? Like you pick up new skills. And I was fortunate enough, my wife bought me a track package to a racetrack. And I've never raced a car or anything or drove a Lamborghini before. But I go to this track. It's in Crescent, Texas, just south of Fort Worth. And I get on this. And the instructor sits beside you. And he's like, okay, take this turn, brake now. Well, the average lap, when someone was doing it, anybody walking in, it was probably 1 minute and 30 seconds. Anybody could probably go in there and take one of these cars and go around there. And eventually I got the Lamborghini down to 113. And the track guy, I go like, what's the fastest ever? And he's like, well, we had a car, the McLaren, which has about 100 more horsepower than this. We got a professional driver, got it to 107. So he's like, you're only, 5 seconds off the fastest time. And if this is your first time, he's like, you're in probably the top 5% of people who ever come in here. So to pick up, so I framed it as, picking up things quickly, right? It was an excuse to post a picture of me and next to a nice, beautiful Lamborghini, which caught a lot of people's attention, which eventually caught, the Society of Petroleum Engineering. They have a magazine. They featured that in an article as well, just trying to, market. And because of those kind of stories, guys like JP did reach out to me. He was like, man, I don't know you, but I kind of dig what you're trying to do and accomplish. And I'm, anything I can do to help you out, support you, I will. And he featured me on a couple of his little episodes as well. And so big thanks to him. We recently had a nice publicized hair growing contest for Sky High for Kids.
Right.
So pretty proud that
I donated to that.
I actually got to beat him. I think you donated to the other side.
I did, man. I did. I'm sorry. I never got around to
Oh,
donate to you.
yeah. That's how it happens.
I'll
But I
take that
get it.
L.
It's all
I'll take
at
that
the
L.
end of the day, it all went to the right place.
Yeah.
It was great. We both started out like, oh, we'll try and raise some money. And I got the idea. I was like, let's make this a Houston versus Permian thing. Don't let the guy coming in from Houston beat us Permian people, right? And that really set off a lot of people. And even to, JP, like he was getting some pretty big donors. And then he was, it became like more than just a donation, became a fun thing. Yeah. And heck, even for that, I told him. But some lady actually from Colorado I never ever met sent me $100 and was like, just make sure you beat that JP guy. And I was like, what?
Why?
I don't know. I think she was in good fun for the most part. I don't think she meant anything bad, but I was just like, wow, people are really getting into this.
That was awesome. I hope y'all do it again. Because that's, again, anything that goes to a good cause is always
especially
fun.
for kids.
Yeah,
for sure. But getting back, so I framed the posting, and I highly recommend anybody out there looking for a job. People can see your resume and they can make a judgment how they think you're going to be. But if you start framing all those questions, like picture yourself being in front of that hiring manager, what he's going to ask you, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be your some basic questions, and answer those questions in your posting. And that's what I did. And it got a lot of people's attention and a lot of people's support then, because I wasn't pushing a product. And that's how I've kind of carried it on to, my job here, which got me my opportunity with Arc Energy, right?
Well, to refocus on advice you gave earlier, even if you're not interviewing for a job, you need to be, people may have had in their lives an instance where they solved a problem. You talked about solving problems. That's great advice. You better keep those in your mind. You better sit down one day and think, where did I solve a problem? And why did it matter? How much did it matter? That's important because, number one, if you're looking for a job, you're going to be asked that question. You got about a 99% chance that question is going to be asked of you. Know it and have it. And if you sit down into yourself and you're honest with yourself and you don't have any examples of it, you better start solving problems. Because my mentor, Mush Khan, he told me that in my career. He goes, you will be judged here, in your life and in your business, how many problems you solve. Go find them to solve. Your CEO may not even know the problem exists, but find it and solve it, and that's how you'll grow. And he was absolutely right. You are as well.
I recently, I hear a lot of people, they talk about math in high school, and they're like, when am I ever going to need this hypotenuse, the square root? What it is? People need to realize it wasn't about knowing the long side or the short side of the triangle or the calculus and stuff. It was how that got your mind trained, how you look at problems. Take in the information you need, discard the information you don't need, and what process do you really need to take to get to the final answer? Now, in math, okay, that is, X equals what? But at the end of the day, if you're faced with a challenge like, okay, the tubing stuck down hole, what can we do? You better have a few different options and know, okay, this is what I have, this is what I don't have. Don't worry about how you got there. You're there. Deal with that later and solve the problem. And it also helps you with sales, right? Like I have this show, I called it Tally Book Troubleshooting. And the idea was, I knew lots of people had people coming on and telling stories. And what I wanted to do was, I didn't want to exactly tell people's background stories, because a lot of people, I think, were doing it better than me. Yourself, JP was doing it too. So what I wanted to do was just examples of problem solving that then maybe got you interested into that person so that you would reach out to them and then they would have the opportunity to make a sale and stuff.
Real
right?
quick, because I want the audience to know, you're still doing that show, right?
Yes,
So,
sir.
and it's called Tally Book.
Tally book troubleshooting.
Okay, so for the audience that doesn't know, why I know it's got an oil field reference there. Can you explain what that is, real quick? And then tell
So the
about
tally
show?
books are out there. They're usually on rigs, but a lot of the upstream guys keep them. They're an advertisement, but they're originally there as to keep the tally, the number of tubing or drill pipe or collars, drill pipe, and their lengths, so that you knew your depth.
Yeah.
But a lot of, for instance, fishing guys keep them so know when they arrived on location, what steps were taken, how much did they pull and weight, so that they can go back and reference that to show what steps were taken to solve the problem. So that's where the name, shout out to Janie Snelson. She's the one that kind of came up with that. And so, we would have stories on, like, for instance, one story was a giant vessel was sold in South Louisiana to ExxonMobil, but they wanted it moved up to Oklahoma. Day comes to move this giant thing up there. Cranes on location, trucks, we're talking $20,000 a day worth of equipment. And all of a sudden the state of Louisiana comes on and says, or comes to them and says, hey, by the way, that bridge we said could handle the weight, can't handle the weight. You can't drive over this bridge. And it was the only access off this location. So what do, right? You got all this pressure. The guy goes, I'll get a barge. So he gets a barge, puts it next to the bridge. The crane moves all the stuff to the the river, the bridge. They put it on the barge, which is next to the bridge. They move all the equipment across, pick it back up, and then they didn't have to get on. And then they were on their way to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds simple enough to think of right now, but when you have that much pressure, on you, like, that was a pretty ingenious way of solving how you get across a bridge without driving across a bridge, right?
Yeah.
And so I've had lots of people come on and tell stories. Now I've kind of started doing a few round tables and trying to educate about carbon capture or refineries or a few other things, that maybe not a tiny story anymore, but I still try and keep to the premise was, if you got an interesting story, come on and tell it, right? Like, and a lot of people don't understand. They want to come on and they want to do a sales pitch.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't do the sales pitch. Nobody wants to listen to that.
Well, nobody buys from the company; they buy from you, right?
Exactly, right? So I was like, man, if you got some story where the rig was on fire and you somehow figured out a way to put it all out in 5 minutes, like, people are going to want to hear that, right? And that's a personal, ingenious, that demonstrated your ingenious,
Yeah.
not the companies, not the products or something. And so, I've been very fortunate to have all kinds of people come on and tell all kinds of great stories for that.
There's a couple of key points about you that I want to drill a little bit deeper into right here. And the first one, I'll start by telling about a movie I saw called Apocalypto. Have you seen that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you haven't seen it out there, see it. It's an amazing movie about the Aztec, the end of the Aztec Empire, and how it was spiraling out of control, and the European colonials were just about to be there. But it's about a native tribe in the middle of the maybe the Yucatan, maybe Central America, but they're out hunting and they come across another tribe that was obviously in distress, and they were trying to pass through. And the guy was obviously, he had issues, and talking to him, and when they get back to their tribe, his father, who is obviously the elder and is an incredibly wise man, tells him, he goes, "What did you see on this man?" And he said, "What you saw was fear." He said, and basically communicated to his son that fear is a disease. Don't let it infect you, and don't bring it into this village. Positivity works the exact same way. And you, I think, do that for people. And I think you probably have people in your life that do it for you. So I guess the question I want you to answer, because your positivity, I don't need to tell people you have it. They've already heard that. What do you do to keep it? Do you do mindful exercises? Tell me.
I kind of just remember my past, because I wasn't always, like, if I could go back and tell myself, a couple things, being more positive would be one of them. I was I would call it being more a realistic guy, but at the end of the day, it was probably more negative than positive. If you knew me just starting out in the oil field, like if I was given an impossible task, I would bitch at that impossible task instead of seeing, okay, you know what, I may not be able to get it all done, but now instead of doing the 7 things I think I can, maybe I could actually get 8 out of the 10. You know what I mean? And see it more as a challenge. So the lessons of the past, kind of are always with me. I think I've grown quite a bit since once I first started. I think that's true for a lot of people, but there's no sense being, and I have kids now, so maybe I'm not giving it as much credit. I try to be a better example for them.
It changes you.
Oh, for sure.
I watched it change my brother deeply. So yeah, it changes you.
So there's a number of things. Do I go and meditate or something? No, but maybe I kind of do because I do take some time for myself and try and focus. I don't maybe think of it that way, but maybe that's actually probably what it's called, taking a few moments for myself and going through what I got to get done today and how, is today going to be a good day? I pray with the family at the end of the night with my kids and my wife too, and we give thanks. So
that's part of it.
That's been a real big part, focusing more on that. And once again, it's probably because I have kids now that I'm trying to be a better example for them than, what's the sense in, worrying about shit all the time.
Absolutely. And of course, the other thing that struck me was, and again, I give all the credit in the world to my former mentor, who pretty much taught me everything I need to know about life and business. But one thing is helping people, and it doesn't have to come back to you directly. In other words, you could help me do something, but I may not be able to repay that, and just because of lack of opportunity or whatever that may be, but it's going to come back in some kind of way, whether it be like a karma type thing or something. I know somebody eventually that helps you, but the people I want to surround myself with, and the person I'm trying to be, is a person that helps people when there's nothing expected in return. Now, I've seen you do that a lot. Like when you bring people on your tally book show, you're not expecting anything from them, nothing at all. And so that's I think that I'd like you to speak to that and why that's important to you, because it's important to me as well.
Well, actually, what I'm most proud of is it used to be a lot more, do a lot more of it on after I got hired on with Arc Energy. LinkedIn was huge reason why I got it, and the people. Like I said, I mentioned JP helped me, and David Gibson, Janie Snelson, lots of people. So I started this thing called Pay It Forward Friday, and where I would feature job seekers. And
for the record, that is the third thing, on a regular basis that you do?
I tried to make it a regular basis thing, and it's crazy. I'll speak a little bit to that because it kind of speaks to a couple different points, but. Okay, if I got this following, people, for whatever reason, I still don't understand. Like, I'll get more view. Like, I only have 8,000 followers or connections. There's people that have 25,000, 30,000, and for whatever reason, my posts will do better. And I can't explain it or what. But so I had this following. I was like, let me try and help some job seekers. And I would, feature them. And just recently, like 2 weeks ago, I did Cosmo, girl who recently lost her job out here doing sales. And I don't know if I'm supposed to say anything, but I think she already got a job offer from that posting and stuff. I tried doing it again last week for a woman named Leanne. It didn't go. I think I only got like 5,000 or 6,000 views on that versus Cosmo's got 25,000 or something.
It's kind of weird how
some of it hits and miss, but I know 4 or 5 people that literally they got their. Sonia Eichler was another one. I helped her out, and happy to do that. But the crazy part, okay, I want to do that. I've seen people post on LinkedIn, say, hey, I've been looking for a job for 2 years. I'm desperate. I really could use some help. I will literally reach out to them, message them, and be like, hey, if you're interested, I'll feature you on Pay It Forward Friday. But just to make sure that you know how to work LinkedIn, and a lot of this happens with you, all you have to do is click on this hashtag, Pay It Forward Friday, find one of the posts. I don't care which one it was, where I'm helping a job seeker. Click like so I know you found one, and add a comment so you can see what you kind of got to do to, help keep the algorithm. Because when someone says, hey, good luck, you got to respond, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And that helps drive a lot of that. I would say 99% of the people don't respond or aren't interested.
Isn't that wild?
And to me, I'm like, wait, you're like, anytime anybody reached out to me with anything, when I was looking for a job, even if I thought it was kind of far-fetched, I did it because, hey, what do I got to lose? And it's crazy to me how many people either won't respond or just won't do it. They're like, oh, sorry. Because why I asked that is somebody asked me one time, hey, can you feature my friend? And I was like, no problem, man. For you, anything. And I'm like, hey, guy, all you got to do is click like on the comments and respond to when these people and take the connections when they reach out to you. And I did this for this one gentleman. Complete no-show. So people were reaching out to him. He wouldn't connect, didn't anything. And it was just like, Keith, what's up with this guy? So now it's coming back on me. Like, here, it's kind of like I'm vouching for them that they need this job so bad. Apparently, they don't need the job so bad that they're not even willing to respond. So it was just like, okay, I'll have at least one little prerequisite, right?
Yeah.
And
to get them involved, you have to participate. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I took a cue from you. I've been kind of absent from LinkedIn again for the past, while I've been dealing with my medical issues. But I went and visited Texas Tech, where I went to school, and I am incredibly grateful for Texas Tech. Not just the college, the experience there, the city of Lubbock, and mostly the lifetime friends and network that I made there. What I'm doing now would not be even remotely possible if it weren't for people I met there. So I took a picture in front of there's a big stone Texas Tech, the symbol of the college right in front of the major entrance there, and I took a picture in front of it, and it was I took a picture there in front of it because it was where me and my family and I was the first one to graduate from college. So my family came all the way from Georgia. We took a picture right there, and I took a picture there to say, and I was like, hey, I'm so thankful for what this was. This was a blessing beyond belief for this, pretty much poor kid out of the woods of Georgia was able to go to this awesome college and do well and experience everything. And I posted it on there. That thing got 1,100 replies and likes, and that was by far the biggest post I ever. I did not. It was not intended for that. I did not. This was not try. Okay, how can I get the most attention out of this? This wasn't like a self-promoting.
Because it was genuine, right?
It was genuine.
Genuine,
it was genuine,
authentic, and that's what does good online.
That's what you got to be. And I've been talking to my brother about that as he's launching his own little online presence now. It's like authenticity. I said, talk about your fatherhood and your family and all the stuff you do with them, because that's what he's involved in. Like people want to talk about authentic people. They want to know about authentic people who are good people, basically. And I don't have a better way to describe it, but I like to deal with people who in my life who are going to add, and that doesn't mean add physical or monetary things. It just means add spiritually, because when you deal with people who are positive, that helps you. That makes you feel positive. And you deal with people who are negative, that could drag your ass down with them. And it's a tough thing because people who are in a bad place need help. They need people to help them. So I guess that's up for another conversation, is how to help people who are, because you've been helping a lot of people who need jobs. And that's a tough thing, because if they're needing a job, they're probably in a bad spot, and so dealing with them and keeping them positive like you is a tough thing. And also you got to be careful not to let you slide into their brain waves
and not thinking. Seem like you're judging them or or insulting them. Like I've tried to reach out to a couple people, where they post and it's pretty negative stuff, and I'm like, hey man, I'm not an expert or anything, but by the way, this isn't helping your cause.
This isn't going to get it done.
Like just take it. You can look at what I did, and if you want an example, but I'm just I don't know if anybody's reached out to you or said anything, but like maybe change your tack.
Well, Keith, we're running up on the end of time here. I forgot to mention we are here at the Petroleum Museum in Midland, and if you haven't seen this thing, if you're out here and you've seen it, you said something about race cars earlier, and we're actually recording in a room full of race cars, and the Petroleum Club is pretty amazing to show the history of the oil field and everything that's.
I'll take you to the other side there where all the real oil field stuff is.
Yeah.
This is just a really cool room, in my opinion. It's been featured on my, the little LinkedIn videos numerous times, but it's usually what most people kind of, at least the guys come in here and they want to be in front of.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. I greatly appreciate it. I've learned a lot from you. You definitely have. You got a lot to you've done a lot of things that people can learn from, but also kind of channel your energy a little bit as well is one of the greatest things I can do, and your positivity. Can you tell if people want to, I think people will want to learn a little bit more about you and see what you do. Can you, your LinkedIn and whatever else social media you may have, can you tell the audience how to find that stuff?
So for the most part, I'm on LinkedIn. I post a little bit of stuff to YouTube, but nobody ever goes there. But you can find me on LinkedIn, Keith Stelter. I work for Arc Energy, just how it's kind of spelled. Tally Book Tuesday is, when I upload my shows. I do a little thing, networking events also in the Permian here. Workout Wednesdays, something that's always been a hobby of mine. I always wanted an alternative to just all these drinking events and stuff. So get together, work out, get a little bit of a sweat on, and do that. And, if you know anybody needing help, like I said, Pay It Forward Friday. I featured charities and, fundraisers and job seekers and stuff trying to, I've been very fortunate. So I'm just trying to give back that way. And shout out to Arc Energy for whatever reason, always keep supporting me. And a lot of my customers do as well. So it's been a great experience overall. If you would have told me 4 years ago that I'd be doing internet shows and posting all the time, I would have laughed at you and called you crazy. So it's amazing what you can do when you have to do it, right?
That's awesome. Yes, it is. Next time we see each other will be December 1st. December 1st. And
doing some modeling of some clothes.
You are. I don't think, I know I won't be, but so what it is it's the oil and gas charity ball put on by Social Octane. The Gatsby Party is what they call it. It's a Gatsby theme. If you want to be, I guess it's the public is tickets available. Tickets available to the public. It is an amazing event. I actually have a big personal surprise being presented at this event, so it's going to be a game-changing big event for me, and I appreciate Mark and the people over there for having me and being involved. But I'll see you there. Hopefully, and
it's an excuse to get really dressed up. Like how many times do you have a year where you get to, and it's not a stuffy wedding or something, so you get to really dress up and have a good time.
Well, I will see you there, sir. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show and accept the mission. Please subscribe to the Mission Zero podcast on your preferred streaming service and be sure to give us a 5-star review.